Picture this, you wake up somewhere and you don't remember how you got there, the walls are old, the rules are already written, someone else is in charge, and they're not the kind of person you'd have chosen. You look around and everyone else is in the same situation, but nobody seems to notice. They're arguing about the menu in the cafeteria.
That's a bleak way to start a conversation. What is this? A dystopia pitch?
It's not dystopia, it's a thought experiment that happens to map uncomfortably well onto reality. The idea is simple. Earth is a prison, not literally with bars and guards, but functionally, we arrive with no memory of choosing to be here. We can't leave. The people in charge got there by being the most ruthless, not the most wise. And the vast majority of people exist in some degree of unfreedom, whether they know it or not.
Okay, but that's just a metaphor dressed up as an argument. You could call anything a prison if you stretch the definition far enough. What makes this more than a clever analogy?
What makes it more than a metaphor is its predictive power. If you genuinely believed you were in prison, what would you expect? Comfort, safety, fairness, dignity? Of course not. You'd expect none of those things. And here's the uncomfortable part. When you stop expecting those things, a lot of human suffering suddenly makes sense. Not because suffering is good, but because suffering in a prison isn't a bug. It's the environment functioning normally.
So, your solution to suffering is just to lower your expectations? That sounds like giving up.
It's the opposite of giving up. Giving up is expecting the prison to be something it isn't, and then being crushed every single day when it isn't. Accepting where you are is the precondition for actually doing something about it. You can't navigate out of a maze if you refuse to admit you're in one.
Fair point. But who put us here? In a real prison, there is a judge, a sentence, a crime. What's the crime?
That's the question everyone asks, and it's the wrong one. The better question is, what are the conditions of your confinement? Because regardless of how you got here, the conditions are what you're actually dealing with. But if you want the philosophical answer, the concept maps onto causality. Every action you've ever taken, every choice, every avoidance has contributed to the shape of your current cell. Some of those walls were built by you, some were built before you arrived. Most people can't tell the difference.
So karma, basically. You're describing karma without calling it karma.
I'm describing causality. Karma is one cultural framework for it. The universe doesn't need reincarnation to operate on cause and effect. You don't need to have lived a past life to understand that the person you are today is the accumulated result of every decision you've ever made, and every decision that was made for you going back generations. The prison isn't punishment, it's consequence.
Alright. Let's talk about the guards. You said the ruthless end up in charge. Is that deterministic? Are we just stuck with psychopaths running everything?
Not deterministic, but highly probable. Here's why. In a prison, the incentive structures reward the person willing to break the most rules without getting caught. The same is true in the outside world. The people who climb to the top of any hierarchy, corporations, governments, religions, are disproportionately the ones willing to do what others won't. That's not cynicism, that's selection bias. The system selects for ruthlessness because ruthlessness is adaptive in a competitive environment.
That's depressing. If the system selects for the worst people, what's the point of trying to be good?
Because being good was never about winning the prison's game, it's about not becoming a prisoner of the prison. There's a difference between being incarcerated and being institutionalized. Incarceration is a condition. Institutionalization is a state of mind. The inmate who adapts so completely to prison life that they can't function outside has lost something more important than freedom. They've lost the memory that anything else exists.
And you think most people are institutionalized? Walking around free, but thinking like inmates?
Watch how people respond to anyone who questions the system. Not the people in power, ordinary people. Tell someone that the career they hate, the debt they're drowning in, the relationships they tolerate, the beliefs they inherited, might all be walls of a cell they never examined. Most of them won't thank you. They'll defend the cell. Because the cell is familiar, and familiarity feels safer than freedom. That's institutionalization.
So how does someone actually break out? If the walls are partly external and partly self-built, where do you even start?
3 steps. First, remember, you have to recover the memory of how you got here. Not metaphorically, literally. What choices led to your current situation? What did you avoid? What did you tolerate? Second, understand. You have to see the causal chain. Not to blame yourself, but to identify which walls you can remove and which are structural. Third, choose. Free will isn't the ability to do anything. It's the ability to learn from consequence and make a different decision next time. Most people exercise free will about as often as they exercise a muscle they've forgotten they have.
Remember, understand, choose. That sounds almost too simple for something this heavy.
Simple and almost impossible? Because remembering is painful. Understanding means confronting the ways you've collaborated with your own confinement, and choosing differently means tolerating the anxiety of uncertainty. The prison, for all its misery, is predictable. Freedom is not, and most people, given the choice between comfortable misery and uncomfortable freedom, will choose the prison every time. Not because they're weak, because they're afraid. And fear is the lock on the door, not the bars on the window.
That's genuinely unsettling. Because I can think of 3 walls in my own life right now that I've been pretending aren't there.
Then the metaphor is doing its job. The prison planet isn't a worldview designed to make you hopeless. It's a lens designed to make you honest. Once you stop expecting the prison to be a palace, you stop wasting energy on resentment, and the energy you reclaim from resentment is exactly the energy you need to start dismantling walls one at a time, starting with the ones you built yourself.
Dr. Orion Taraban calls this the prison planet. We turned it into a conversation. The question isn't whether you're in a prison. The question is which walls you're going to stop pretending aren't there.